So let's take a look at the metronome and all of the things that it has to offer. Of course, some people call it a click track, and if you were here for an earlier video, I showed you the easiest way to turn these on and off are either here in the transport, or if you keep this on up here in the main out channel, which is always created when you create a song. We'll also turn it on and off. Now, as I have explained, if you leave this on and use this control, this would be the best idea to always leave this on and use this to turn the metronome or the click on and off, as leaving this on gives more options to future outputs that you might have, like headphone or cue mixes. They will have their own individual controls, so leaving this on is probably a good idea. Okay, so now let's actually look at the three controls that we have that are obvious right here. We have the first one, which is the pre-count. We're going to go through that here in a second, and you can see that it also lists a shortcut as Shift+C. And then, of course, you have the metronome setup. And, of course, the click itself, which you can turn on and off with just the C key. So let's open up the setup here, and it opens up this box here. So you can see that I'm actually using a tambourine for my click track. So if I hit play, you can actually hear the tambourine. You have the ability to choose just about any click that you could possibly want, with also the ability to add your own. So then you got these two down here. For those of you that are coming from Pro Tools, you can choose either one of the two Pro Tools clicks, which I thought was interesting. They just put tools in there. So you can choose that for the accent. You can also choose that for the beat. You can also choose that for the off beat. And I'm going to show you that here in a second. Okay, so once you actually get all of your song ready and set up for recording, it's usually a good idea to set this up and then store a preset for the click in case you are going to be using different instruments for different songs, okay? You can also reload that preset here. If you're not going to do any of that, let's just get going with the sounds. So if I go up here to the top of my timeline, let's just go ahead and zoom in a little bit here. And I'm just going to go ahead and deal with this blank area here for right now in setting up the metronome. So if I hit play, you can hear the metronome. So if I actually take the beat down a little bit and I put the accent all the way up, it gives you a nice gives you the ability to hear the accent a little bit better when the beat is actually going in the background. So I'm going to turn this up a little bit here. So what is the offbeat? So this is really good for working with slower tempos. So if you got this thing like really slowed down to a slower tempo, you can add an extra offbeat in the click or the metronome. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. It adds the and, basically, is what it does. And you can really get that in there. And this is really good for acoustic guitar recording at slow tempos. You can go ahead and add that in there, and you can really feel the rhythm if you don't like recording to a drum beat or anything like that. So there we go. So that's the offbeat. Okay, that takes care of this section here. Now, these are some really nice options here. You have a pre-count, a pre-roll, and you can choose the number of bars for each. So how do these work? All right, so let's go ahead and go back in our song a little bit here to the song that we've actually kind of been building as this thing has gone on. So we have two audio tracks and we have an instrument track, and everything that I'm going to show you applies to both. Those are the audio tracks, and then here is the keyboard track. Cool, so let's unmute everything so that we can hear it. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to use the pre-count. I'm going to expand these a little bit, just like that, and I'm going to use the timeline to do my zooming. So it's important to first make sure that the loop zone is out of the way. So I usually move it away from the area that I'm going to be using the pre-count and the pre-roll. Just something that I do. So I'm going to go ahead. I want to punch in here on bar 4 here. So what I want to do is I want this thing to pre-count 2 measures or 2 bars so that I can get ready to play. So once this is set up, you can actually see down here that the actual pre-count light is on in the transport. And now what we're going to do here is we're going to hit record. There we go. So what did you see that happen there? What was wrong? Yes, you're right. We actually forgot to turn on the click track here in the main out. So let's do it again. I'm going to hit this here. And you can see that it's counting down with a number in the record button. There we go. And it is going to record. So the other thing that we forgot to do, we forgot to actually activate a track or arm a track so that we can actually go ahead and record. So let's do this again one more time. We're going to hit the record button. It's going to count in 2 bars, and then it's going to engage recording at the top. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, boom, and there it goes. All right, there we go. So we actually used the pre-count to count in to replace a spot here. And you have to remember that when you're actually done recording, you're going to have to hit the record button again to actually stop. So let me show you that and then how to adjust the punch. So here we go. I'm actually going to shorten this to 1 bar, and I'm going to hit record. 3, 2, 1. Now I'm going to record over that, and then when I'm done, I'm going to hit stop. And I can adjust, I can adjust the length of the punch because I had to stop and go back and hit the stop button in order to use the pre-count this way. There we go. So then I can say, okay, so the part that I replayed is good enough up till here, and now I'm all set to move on to something else. So now let's look at the pre-roll. Now what the pre-roll does is the pre-roll gives me the ability to go back 1 bar and listen to the point before that I want to punch in. So if I go ahead and I take the tick mark out of that and I put it in the pre-roll at 1 bar, watch. When I hit record, it's going to do something similar to the pre-count, only it's going to go back and play the track up until the punch point. So let's go ahead and hit record. There we go. And now it actually records. And then I would hit stop when I'm done, and then I would adjust the punch from there. Okay, let's undo that. So you saw that I want to punch in here. I have pre-roll. I activate record, and this shoots back 1 bar as selected here to hear the part just before where I want to punch in. Just like that. And then when I'm done, I would hit stop and then adjust my punch to the exact point that I wanted to record, or I wanted to play over the old part, just like that. Okay, so that is pre-roll. So now I'm going to uncheck the pre-roll, and I'm going to zoom in again here on this. And if you look here now, we have a couple of options. We have an option to only play the click, for the pre-count or the pre-roll. But I usually like to hear the click all the way through, so I usually say click and play. So it's going to play during recording and during playback. So like if I do this, if I take this tick mark out and I hit play and I've got the metronome on, there is no click track. If I check that, there is a check mark. So this, if I hit record, now you can hear the click track in the background, because I have it selected for play, for record only, but I like it in both. So there's that, and then you have the click in pre-count only, and then the repeat accents, which just makes the accents actually go throughout the click so that you hear them all the time, kind of defeating the beat part of it. But there you go. So these are the settings and the setup for the metronome. We are actually going to go through more in the punching video that's coming. We're going to actually go ahead and punch, replace. We're going to edit the punch and things like that. So last thing to do here is to render a click. Now, why would you want to render a click? Well, this is a good option if you are dealing with a co-writer or someone you're collaborating with, and they're working with a different DAW, and they would actually like a recorded version of your click track. So here's a great thing to be able to do. You can go ahead and say, all right, I want to have a click track for the length of this part here. So I'm going to drag the loop zone from bar 3, and I'm going to go all the way to bar 7. This is where the song actually ends. I am also going to put the start and end markers. I'm going to open up the marker track, clicking on the little hamburger, and then opening up the marker track. And you can see I have a start and end marker already here. And I'm going to set those also to the same points of the loop zone right there. So why would you do that? Do you have to do that? No, and I'll show you why you don't have to, but I do just in case. If I click render, I'm going to have a couple of options here in order to work. So I've got, I can go from the beginning of the song to the song end marker, or I can use the loop zone to actually render my track. So if I choose the first one, watch what happens. I'm going to click OK, and it renders the click from the beginning of the song to the point to where the end marker is. So I'm going to undo that. So now if I actually hit render and I do just the loop zone, I'm going to click OK, and there you have it. It only rendered the click within the loop zone. So you've got a couple of options there. If you'd like to just go from the beginning to wherever the end marker is, you can use the timeline start to song end, or you can just keep it simple and use the loop zone. And of course, when you're dealing with a 3 or 4 minute song, the start and end markers might be even easier. So it is up to you as to which you want to use. So that pretty much covers the metronome setup. I will see you all in the next video.